Okay, so once again, welcome everyone to Live from my drum room. It's a pleasure to see you all. And I'd like to welcome my guest, the one and only Rich Redmond.
What's up, brother?
There you are, brother. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I had my usual like weird tech issues getting this thing going, but here we are.
Yeah.
Here we are. And you're looking handsome as ever.
Well, man, thank you. You too. When you go live, there's so many things that can happen. You know what I mean? It's like when
Yeah.
you're playing like American Idol, and they say, "No, it's no big deal if there's a problem. It's not live," and you're told the wrong information, and like Pro Tools isn't working, and it's 5 seconds and 5, 4. This is live. I mean, and then somehow it starts working, and whew.
Yeah, yeah. Man, that's some pressure. And that's cool, man, that you can speak to that real life experience as opposed to just this silly little thing that I do that I always stumble at the same spot trying to get the sharing, to different pages
Oh
and different
man, it's
places.
cool. You
So,
go live. That's brave. I love it.
well,
Yeah.
thanks, brother. And I want to talk about your show too, and maybe we'll get to that in a
Sure.
minute. But you have so much going on, Rich, and I'm so. First of all, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure to
Oh,
have you.
honor. Thank you so much, man.
Um, well, I'm a big fan, and the few times we've got to hang out at different shows, it's always you just bring this like energy and just positive vibes.
Oh, thank
And
you.
after we saw each other, yeah, at PASIC, I was going to mention it when we saw each other there, and I just figured, when I had an idea of when we could figure this out, I wanted to reach out
Yeah.
and ask you to do this.
Well, that's
So,
a good looking drum room, man. I appreciate you having me, man.
well, thank you. Yeah, I just made a little change this morning. I put my Rogers kit in there. I'm going to start to practice on that a bit, and for a little change of pace.
Oh
So,
yeah, you change the drums, you change, the your outlook and it's such a personal instrument.
yeah, absolutely. So talking about that, what kind of things are you doing these days to keep your inspiration as high as it is all the
Yeah.
time, and what do you when you get up in the morning? What are some of the things you think about and you
Yeah,
do?
man. Well, I usually jump out of the bed with a smile on my face, and I know that we're both runners. I don't know how long you've been running, but that is just like has been such a secret sauce for me as far as like
Yeah,
because you kind of lose yourself, and when you sweat, you get rid of those toxins, and you just look at the world differently, and your pants fit better, and it's just a great thing to do. I've been doing it for such a long time, and I try to knock that out first thing if I can. There's something about like either getting your run in or getting some stretches or doing a workout first thing because sometimes you're like, I'll do it after work, I'll do it after the session. And then before you know it, someone invites you to happy hour, you got to go to a meeting and it just doesn't, you
yeah,
just got to get it done. But, after all these years, I started playing drums when it's my go-to joke, but when dinosaurs roamed the earth in 1976, I was hitting everything in sight. My dad said, "Do you want to play the drums?" I think secretly he wanted to play the drums. And so what is that? That's like 40 something years of playing
yeah,
this instrument, and I'm still
yeah,
so enthusiastic about it. But sometimes, the pandemic taught me this. Sometimes it's nice to step away from something, and more over the years, I put so many tens of thousands of hours in the early days of getting my hands together and the coordination and working on the reading and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of times I don't have as much enthusiasm to be in a dark room by myself going like, I got to get that left foot double bass shuffle
yeah,
thing up to, I love playing music with people. It's such a team sport, and then moving to Nashville, of
absolutely, yeah.
course, it's all about the song. So all those like, heavy chops and things that I worked on, at North Texas State and trying to master these things like fusion music, that vocabulary, it's in your back pocket. You can access it, but for the most part, playing ka-dika-doom, boom, spack, and you just trying to put that space together and that healing feeling, and then choosing the right snare drum and how to stay out of the way and keep smiles on people's faces, that are writing these songs. So it's just Nashville just taught me that less is more thing. So the other
Yeah.
day I had a little, like a minor surgery from running. I had like a meniscus tear on my hi-hat foot. So I was like, okay, the doctor's like, it's a 5-week recovery. I'm like, oh, great. So, I'm with the guys in my band. We're all, a little older, really oldest band in country music. But so things are starting to fall apart. So we always schedule our weird little surgeries and stuff like in November and December, so we can get like our recovery time. And so I hadn't picked up the sticks in a couple of weeks. And then I had a recording session Tuesday, and I said, man, I better get those sticks in my hands. And you pick those things up and you're like, oh man, this is a little rusty, shaking the rust off for the first 20 minutes. By that second hour, I'm just like, oh dude, I got my pad of fla-flas and my flam accents and my flam taps. I'm flying. It's because that muscle memory, that time in the trenches. So I don't beat myself up if I don't pick up a pair of sticks for the day, because sometimes maybe the day is you're playing music with people, you're recording, maybe you're traveling. And while you're doing that, maybe you're working on your bookings and your admin and running your life, but every day I just try to grow in some sort of like, do something with my mind, do something with my body, try to move the ball down the field with my music career, try to inspire people, try to be inspired. And just, move that ball down the field, man,
That's great, man. No, and you made a really good point too, that at a much lower level, in terms of my playing, I think the same way that it gets in my head, Rich, like mentally, that for a while anyway, that I had to play every day, just like I gotta play, even if I don't feel like it. And I think what you're saying is the same thing. There's nothing worse than sort of forcing yourself. Sometimes it can be so counterproductive and unproductive to just kind of, like you say, sit in that room and just kind of go, okay, I'm going to play along to some music. And, but it's weird how like I'll go sometimes a week and I'll just sit down and I'll feel like, man, I'm flying and everything's locking in and it feels really good. And wow, listen to me, I'm playing triplets with my foot, which I can't do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the most, I'm happier than I've been in so many years, because I'm seeking balance. Like when I was in college and it was like, you got to go to your classes, you got gigs at night, you're trying to practice 8 hours a day. It was very fruitful and very productive, but like I wasn't eating right. I wasn't getting my exercise. I wasn't like feeding myself. It was just school, like, and deadlines. And so you become very unbalanced. And so I'm noticing that maybe just a little bit less time with the sticks in my hands, but I'm making sure that I'm getting my workouts and I'm eating right. It's all coming together. And that's really when I'm the happiest. And when you shine the brightest is when you somehow seek that balance in your life. But I feel like there's always there has to be an era of your life, especially hopefully in the early days, where you just practice and you are just focused on being the best, have the best facilities and concepts together. And then you got to go out and you got to go apply those things with real people in the room. And that's kind of where I am now. I'll get behind the drums if I have like a big clinic coming up, or I'm a guest artist with like a percussion ensemble or a jazz ensemble, because I don't do that every day. So, you got to kind of like maybe shed that thing. But for what I do every night with Jason Aldean, that's just like my guys, we finish each other's sentences and everything, the vernacular, the language that we speak is just seeped in blood and sweat and tears and diesel fuel and time in the trenches. And it's just, that's my home base. But then we like to go out and cheat on each other. We like to go, you got to play music with other people. You got to speak some different languages, play in some different crowds. And then you bring that experience back to your home base and people are like, oh man, man, this break was good for you, man. They look back and there's a huge smile on your face. It's great.
Yeah. It's like you've become inspired in a different way. It would be my take on that. Yeah. Playing with other people, it kind of like, and you can bring that back to your family, and talking about Jason, I mean, you've had that chair, you've been his drummer since the beginning.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's
1999 we started working together.
Unbelievable.
Presidencies have gone by, and just like in a public forum, I always do my best to like, just show my gratitude for that situation, because it's such rarefied air in the music industry to be able to have a steady job in the music industry of any kind, because it is the Wild West and there are no rules, and 9 times out of 10 there is very little loyalty, and it's just you against the system. And so to have somebody that believes in me that much, that night after night, I am not going to let him down, whether we're jet lagged or we've got explosive diarrhea, I mean, the show must go on. He knows that I'm going to play that show, and so it's an amazing thing, and he's a very consistent and loyal friend and employer. So
That's great, man. Yeah, I mean, without knowing a whole lot about the entire organization, it really seems that way to me. The fact that you've been there that long, and it's just anybody watching this that has even a feel for, the business, would have to recognize that that's so unprecedented and it really says a lot about Jason. It says a ton about you. There's a lot of great drummers in Nashville.
Well, he just says, I got to have my guys.
You're his guy.
I got to have my guys. Even if like he's playing the Opry or something. I mean, there was times that he played the Opry, and the Opry, of course, has a world-class house band. But there's just something when somebody is out there and they are bearing their soul and they are taking the music to the people and they're trying to tell a story, they want to be as comfortable as possible. And there's something just about having people that, you break bread with and you finish each other's sentences and you've been in the trenches together and they look back and there's just something very comfortable about that. So, and that also, which makes me respect, the tried and true warriors of the business that are total freelance cats that have, a resume a mile long. Basically, when someone is working for a different recording artist every week or on a new tour every year, they're working for a whole different corporate structure, ideology, a culture, and they have to just be able to adjust and be a people pleaser, like in the most complimentary way. Like, oh, you want it faster? You want it slower? You want it softer? Oh, plastics, brushes, sneeze guard, no problem. I mean, and that's kind of like the attitude that you have to be a survivor in this crazy, whatever that person wants, you try to give it to them with a smile,
Yeah, man. And yeah, absolutely. This is great. This is exactly what I think, this information for people that wonder, like, how do you make it in the business? How do you get your start? These are all the obvious, I mean, I would say obvious, but things that I think come very obviously and natural to you, what it takes to, when you're a hired gun to come into a session, you're there to give the producer, the songwriter, the artist what they want.
Yeah.
Not necessarily, and correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, but not necessarily what you want, but I'm guessing most of the time it's the same thing, but sometimes you have an idea and maybe they go, yeah, you know what, Rich, we were thinking maybe we'd have you play, like you say, blastics on this one, or play a cross stick instead of a back.
Heck yeah. Just be open to those things and be able to read the room. And because sometimes you're just being you're just being hired as, you're a human drum machine. We want to add the muscle and the ligaments and the circulation and the humanity to something that's been programmed, which, I do a lot. And at other times people are hiring you to be you. And they're like, look, that's a demo, but it's really rough. I want you to do your thing to it. And then other times it's somewhere in the middle where, you can't make a suggestion about everything, but you're like, hey, I got an idea on the bridge there. It's not always welcomed, but it just time in the trenches teaches you to read the room and be like, oh, it's that kind of session today. The other day I was doing a recording session for my friends that have been writing songs. The guys in my band have been writing the last 4 #1 songs for Jason. They're on a real roll. And my friend Kurt, who I've been playing with for 23 years, has become a great programmer. He just got the little Akai MIDI pad, and he's got some of my samples and some of, some other great sounding stuff. And he's able to program some great drum part, very musical. And I always know that they probably want me to hug that demo. So I go in and I pretty much like an Aronoff, I'll transcribe basically the entire drum machine part, all the kick drum patterns and everything. And so I went to the session already, and then on the fly, my friend Kurt goes, oh, I sent you the wrong version of the demo. It's been updated. And so like in real time on the clock, now I'm like transcribing the exact kick drum patterns because they want the exact kick drum patterns. So sometimes you just, some of that training, because people, this is a question I get all the time. Should I go to college? Do I have to go to Berkeley? Do I have to go to MI? Do I have to go to the University of Miami? Do I have to go to USC? Do I have to go to North Texas State? Well, I was like, it's expensive, but when you come out, at least you have 4 more years to kind of work on this craft these skills that may help you. For me, the reading was just a game changer because it allows you to put yourself into more circumstances, to play with people quickly. And let's face it, in this industry, a lot of things are last minute. Hey man, my first gig in Nashville, It was like, hey, Lonnie Wilson said that you can go and do this van gig with this artist for 5 sets a night. You're in a band house. You're in a van. It paid. This is what it pays, kid. But I was like, my first week in Nashville, I was like, yeah, I'll take it. And they're like, by the way, the set list is 60 songs. We call audibles, and we're leaving tomorrow at 8 in the morning. So it's like, 9 o'clock at night, and I stay up all night transcribing 60 songs. And then you put it in alphabetical order, and then you've got your little rhythm watch. The artist looks back at you. They pull up Wild Angels. You go to your tab, Wild, boom, boom, 98 BPM, dick, dick. Oh, you know how it starts. You know how it ends. You know all the stops. They look at you like you're a genius.
That's awesome.
And then people talk, and then that leads to another thing. And thank God for Lonnie Wilson and Eddie Bears and George Lawrence and all these cats that like helped me out when I moved to Nashville. And I was like, penny for the poor. I was starving, man. You know what I mean? It was like, I had my master's. I had played in the 1 o'clock lab band. No one cared. They just were like, yeah, kid, do you know how to play a train beat? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So thank God to those guys.
Yeah, man, those are the heavy cats in Nashville, and what a cool story. And that was my question. I knew you went to North Texas State, a renowned music school, incredible education. Yeah. And did you? So when you came to Nashville, I think you kind of answered my question. You didn't have anything kind of there waiting for you. You just thought, I'm going to go to rather than LA, I'm going to try Nashville first, and and you.
For sure, man. It's like, New York, LA, Nashville, Boston, Austin, Chicago. There's only certain places where you're going to be able to go and kind of move the ball down the field. And, I knew what my goal was, which was to travel the world on someone else's dime, hear myself on the radio and see myself on television. Like, I was like, I want to be like the guys on MTV. So that was so I was like, was it going to be New York, LA, or Nashville? I was graduating. I was kicking around Dallas. And I really love Los Angeles. I love the palm trees. I love the sunny and 70 every day. They don't even really need a weather girl. It's so funny. They're just like, it's sunny and 70 again. And I liked a lot of music that was coming from there. So that was an obvious choice. But I got an audition for Barbara Mandrell, Dina Carter, and Trisha Yearwood. So like an icon, a brand new gal that was coming out, and then a gal that was kind of on her way that had couple records. And I auditioned 3 weeks in a row living in Dallas. I flew into Nashville, learned all the songs, and they're like, you sound great, kid, but we're leaving. Like, where do you live? And I should have lied. I should have said, I live in Nashville. You know what I mean? Fake it till you make it. But I was like, I live in Dallas. And So by the time I had done that 3 times, I was like, I'm moving to Nashville. People seem to like my drumming there, because really I'm an overeducated rock drummer. People will be like, well, what do you, what's your thing? Well, my first record was Elton John's greatest hits, Nigel Olsson on 8-track. And then I started listening to all the bands, the Beatles, the Stones, the Led Zeppelin, getting that in my DNA, transcribing those hits, playing along with those things. And then I discovered Gene Krupa and, Cozy Cole and Baby Dodds, and who are the Mel Lewis, the way he rides the swish and how everyone sets up their figures. And then I started getting into that, playing 20th century classical music. But then you come back, and what is my thing that I really, really love that is like, it just seems like it is so natural, and it's playing the big beat like Max Weinberg or Kenny, or the guys that swing the bats and it goes out to the cheap seats. It just seemed like that was my natural lane.
Yep. I'd say you found it. I'd say you're in it. You're in that lane.
Thank God. Because we all need to find a person to employ. We need a singer, like a drummer. There's some great solo drum records. They usually go cardboard. I mean, God bless, Weckl, Master Plan, as we all had it. We all got our haircut like that. Yeah. I had the VO5 haircut. I had the Jeff Porcaro glasses, and you're like, I want to do a solo drum record, but there's just, you got to have a singer. We're only as good as that front person.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. And to your point too, I mean, it's like, if you want to play music, you got to have a singer, you got to have a band. And like you say, a drum record is only going to go so far to so many people. And I'm like you. I mean, I like playing with other people and making music. And so how long after you got to Nashville So Jason was kind of a new artist when it had all happened at the same
Oh my
time.
God.
Like he was.
Yeah, man. This was a crazy story because I met a young Jason Aldean in 1999, and we were for 4 years. We showcased for every label in town. We did like demo sessions. We jumped into vans to take the music to the people. Kind of refining things, looking for a record deal. And finally, in 2004, he got a record deal. So between '99 and 2004, yes, I was working with Jason, cultivating his career, putting that sweat equity in. But I also had that job with Pam Tillis, where it was kind of like my
Yeah.
day job. We would go out and do 60 shows. It was the first time I was ever on a salary. The first time I ever had somebody opening up a cold bottle of water for me. The first time I had a drum tech. It was a really cool thing. And then also during that period, I was in a band called Rushlow, and we had like 2 soft top 20 hits. But, it was like a slightly overproduced country pop band where we, wore like $100 overpriced, t-shirts and did the thing. And it was fun. It was a great thing. It was a great learning. So during that time, Jason was marinating, and then he got the record deal in 2004. And so if you look at getting the record deal in 2004, that's 16 to 18 years nonstop of
Almost 20, yeah.
But then, we count the time from 1999 to 2004 where he was marinating and cultivating and developing. If you go back to the first record and listen to Jason singing, it just sounds like a very, very young man, like pre-cigarettes and late nights,
Yeah. Wow, man. That's that's just fascinating too and you guys have a tour, or you have a bunch of dates
Yeah, well,
lined up this
back in the
year?
day, it was like we're going to take everything we can. That ended up being like we would do like 200 shows a year, and it was like two shows on
Yeah.
Sunday. Change your clothes between the shows, and then you start to establish. You start opening for everybody in this industry. You're opening for the McGraws and the Keith Urbans, and we did 3 tours with the Rascal Flatts, and you tried Brooks and Dunn. You try to steal their audience, and then it grows into like you're doing 180 shows a year, then 160, then 125, and we did about 6 years. We did 80 shows a year with like a Live Nation contract, and now Jason is still with Live Nation, but we do about 55, 60 shows a year, which is like completely manageable. And it just allows it allows me to operate in Nashville doing those other things like recording here in my studio, Crash Studios, recording on Music Row, teaching, writing books, doing my motivational speaking. And that's all like Tetris, just trying to squeeze these things in.
Yeah.
And for me, really, one of my inspirations was our friend, Kenny Aronoff, because I don't think anybody has his kind of work ethic. And I was like, oh my God, this guy's got drums in New York, LA, Nashville, Europe. He's jumping on red eyes. He's playing on records on Mondays and Tuesdays. He's doing a clinic on Wednesday, catches a red eye, hooks up with Fogarty. I was like, that's my model. That the business is not as healthy now, so it doesn't quite support that. But I'd still try to be like, yeah, Monday, a drum clinic in Pittsburgh on a Monday, yeah, and then I'll fly to Tuesday, and I'll catch my bus on Wednesday. And so I just want to work. I want to take the music to the people. I want to affect people in a positive way. That's my purpose in life. My purpose in life is to change lives and affect people in a positive way. And I know that I can do that through either drumming or through education, music education, which is so near and dear to my heart,
Yeah. Yeah. No, I put you in the same category as Kenny when I look at your work ethic and just nonstop.
No, I appreciate it.
And yeah, absolutely. And talking about your motivational speaking, I mean, I recall that going back, I think the first time I met you, which was by my recollection, Rich, do you remember there was a thing in LA around 2010 that Jules Follett put together, Sticks and
Yeah, we love
Stones?
Jules. Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like there was something to tribute to Hal Blaine or a bunch of drummers.
Oh,
that
yeah,
night.
that was in Nashville. It was like with we did a tribute in Nashville to Hal Blaine, and so all the Nashville session drummer Dom was there, Hal was there.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
this was in L.A. This was a different but you were there. I know you were there because we were hanging out afterward. I think Freddie Gruber, rest his soul.
Oh
was
my
there.
God, yeah, that was in that.
We were like the
It was in
last.
Anaheim.
Yeah,
Was it?
it was in okay, yeah, and but anyway, I knew who you were. We hung out and I just got a feel for like how what your work ethic is like all the things you do. And so how did the motivational speaking sort of take form?
Yeah. Well, I always, just for some reason, I always knew that I would do it because my mom had this library of motivation. So all the Napoleon Hill, all the Dale Carnegie and the Jim Rome and just these kind of like positive law of attraction style thought leaders. And so I kind of consumed those things. I was a pretty voracious reader. So that stuff kind of got into my DNA. My mom's a real positive person. My dad's more of a realist. He's more of like that's all unicorns and rainbows, son. Just get out there, do the thing. He's more a pragmatic,
Yeah,
which is also a good side of things. But I just kind of always
sure.
knew that I have a teacher's heart. And since I love teaching, there was just always an opportunity to kind of instill motivational elements into my teaching because anybody could teach you a paradiddle. It's like the kind of teaching I like to do is the more like what am I going to do with this? How am I going to apply it? How can I cultivate a career? Where do I have to move? I like working with kids on that. I also do this is how you hold the sticks and kid, and this is boom, ching,
Hmm.
ga, ching, boom, ching. We do a lot of that too because it's awesome to see the look on people's faces when they get it together. It's like, wow. It's like, oh, kid, that's the keys to the castle. Now just master that and you could buy a house and a car and all the stuff. But I just always knew I was going to do it. And so my clinics, when I started building my clinic career in like 2004, going down the highway with Aldean, I always tried to instill some motivational stuff. And that just kind of grew. And then one day, my friend Anthony, it's all relationships, all gatekeepers. I had a friend come see a clinic in 2010, and he said, hey, man, there's some like global messaging here that would work for corporate America. They definitely need this positivity. And who doesn't want to listen to a drummer? It's man's first instrument. It levels the playing field. You just got done playing the George Lopez show and Jay Leno. So they're going to be more likely to listen to you. So you should just keep building this. So that individual, thank you, Anthony, if you're listening, he hired me for 12 speeches for Cisco, which is basically a company that runs the internet. They call them the
Yeah.
plumbers of
Wow.
the internet. So then, like anything in life, people start to talk and they're like, hey, I work for Johnson & Johnson. Hey, I work for Hewlett Packard. Hey, I work for Hard Rock Hotels. And then you just start getting thrown into the deep end of the pool and you refine your messaging and then you start to market it and tell people about it. And it just grows. And my
Yeah.
real inspiration is our friend Mark Schulman because, Mark speaks. Mark's been doing it 8 years longer than I am. So his career is just completely prospering right now. If I can't do something, I call Mark. If Mark can't do something, he calls me. And then there's guys like Kenny's talking. His messaging is a little bit different, like, lifelong relevance, taking care of yourself, work ethic, how like life and um, being in a corporation is like being in a band, that kind of stuff. And then
Yeah.
Mark's got his
Yeah.
own thing, and I've got my thing, which is based on an acronym called CRASH. And, some people love acronyms, some people hate acronyms. Um, I'm going to make every book I write about acronyms because it's just, he's like crash, commitment, relationships, attitudes. I can remember that. And then, so,
Sure.
maybe you,
Yeah.
you pull another word, bam, and it stands for brotherhood and attitude. And, you just come up with different things that are sticky, hopefully that people can take with them and remember.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's great, man. That's great. I agree too that you know the world needs that, and I could see a place, certainly in corporate America where they need that sort of positive
Yeah.
reinforcement, inspiration. Yeah,
And you have experience. I mean,
fantastic.
like, that's always been somewhat appealing to me. It's like the other side of the industry. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you with Zildjian for so long, and then Simmons and
Yeah.
DW, and like, I mean, you could write a book. You probably should write a book on what it's like to be representing a high level manufacturer in a high position, and what the expectations are, and the stories, and because people, it's probably a mystery to a lot of people.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I think about it sometimes, and I'd have to change a lot of names or leave
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
out.
for sure.
But no, it's something I do think, and thank you for saying that. It's something that I think about from time to time. If nothing else, just to have it archived or somehow kind of what's the word I'm looking for? Not
Documented.
necessarily.
Yeah.
Documented. Thank
Yeah.
you. Documented for
But they would
posterity.
love you as a speaker. You know what I mean? It's like it's all teed up if you ever had any interest, because you've have such a storied background. You were in the corporate side of things, and then you're a drummer that still plays drums every Friday and Saturday night. You know what I mean? And that's a cool, and people love the drums. So like it is all teed up for you, you know.
Well, thank you, Rich. Thank you. But I don't know. You and Kenny and Mark Schulman, I think you guys have it pretty well sewn
Oh
up.
man.
But that's cool. But so yeah, a couple of other things, and you mentioned Crash Course for Success, and just so everybody watching, that's the name of your course, and people can find out about that on your website, and that's out there. They can search for
Yeah.
it. And you have a book coming out in the spring,
Yeah.
making it in country music.
Yeah, making it in country music, an insider's look at the industry. So it's coming out May 15 in a hardback, which I'm really excited about, because usually publishers will not give you a hardback unless they're really excited.
Yeah.
It's funny though, because a lot of people have already asked me, Audible? Is it coming out on Audible? You know, because I put out a book called Crash Course for Success, 5 Ways to Supercharge Your Personal and Professional Life. And you could get it on like a dead tree, you know, so Jeff Bezos prints it up and he ships it to your house. You could download it to your Kindle, or I read my own book on Audible. And it's just it's crazy how popular that is. People are like, well, I'm in the car, 2 hours a day, or I'm on a train. And so that's just better for me. So I'm like, well, patience. We're going to put out the hardback, then probably a paperback. And while that is out, I'll be recording the Audible. But I have a co-author. Her name is Jennifer Delazana, and I always write with a co-author because they have skills that I don't have, and they help me get the product to the finish line. So if there's people out there that are listening that you're paralyzed by this to-do list and there's things that you want to start doing, well, enlist a friend that's got some skills or some experience in that area, and then they help you get that to the finish line, and just get it out there. But basically, it's like it's not going to be the end all be all of like, if you read this book, you will be the next big country music star. But it's basically a way of pulling back the curtain on the industry through my eyes and showing people like, look at. There's more to just the guy up there in the hat. There's people that have to build the set and drive the bus and cook the food and take and rehearse the band and do the social media. And there's this whole incredible web of an industry in a city like Nashville, where a song is being written, it gets plugged, it gets to the right person. Keith Urban's guy's got a cigar. We're looking for Keith's next song. And then he gets the song, and then they record it, and then the live band's got to get put together, and someone's got to drive the big rigs and the buses, and there's got to be a road manager to keep it all, get everybody paid and fed and slept. And so if you love the music industry and you want a job in the music industry, this is kind of like going to show you some options.
That's great, man. Yeah, I think that's what people need to know. I think there's not enough of that out there. Like peeling back the curtain, like you say, like there's a whole lot more to it than you being on stage in front of 20,000 people. That there's all that other stuff that has to happen. Yeah, I can't wait to get. I'm gonna get it as soon
Dude,
as
I'll send you a copy, man. Like, yeah, I mean, even like my drum tech, John Hall. We just celebrated. We just got the kid married, and I emceed his wedding, and I was the DJ. It was like I was very busy. It was a fun time. But I hired him when he was 19. Now he's 31, and we've seen a lot together. But he basically just told me, he goes, Rich, I've got my degree in drumming and music. But that path you took of living hand to mouth, relationship to relationship, making, maybe $9,000 your first year in Nashville and just like eating ramen noodles. He's like, that's not for me. The guy is super organized and methodical, and he really knows how to tune a drum and quickly. And so he fell into this beautiful career trajectory for himself, and he's just probably going to ride it into the sunset. He's very happy.
That's great. That's great. Does he get to play like when you guys are off the road and he's home? Does he plays in a band himself?
I keep writing him. I keep telling him he needs to be out there doing it. He goes, but I'm busy. Yeah. Well, I said, well, now that you're married and you got kids, you're gonna start having kids. You have to, you have to make that effort. But like I said, he's just really, really happy. He's in a lane that will pay his bills, consistent income, you know, and that is not always the case when you're trying to cultivate a playing career.
Right. Yeah. And just to jump backwards one second too, Rich, what you said earlier about how when Jason started out and you guys were, I guess you could use the word a little, kind of hungry as a new
Yeah.
act, you were playing all those dates. And now that you've been able to scale it back, I mean, so that affords you the ability to, like you said, be in the studio this week, to write tunes with your
Yeah.
bandmates. That's a really enviable position to be in, to not have to sweat it out on the road to make the rent payment or the mortgage payment every
Yeah.
month, and do all, and you do all these other things too. You kind of do all your own business too, right? I mean, all your, like, the social media part of it and the
It's
bookings and
exhausting. Sometimes I want to double down more on the socials and be like, hey, I want to do a whole series on like songs that influenced me and like do covers, so people, that's probably something I'm going to want to get into, because the other side of the equation is when you do achieve some sort of a notoriety, you become known for something, you're attached to an act or a genre, um people think that's all you can do, so you have to
yeah,
like
yeah,
break the mold and be like, well, no, here I am playing big band, or here I am doing some pop music, or so it's just a real brutal business. People want to put you in a box, but it is better to be in a box than no box, be known for something
yeah.
than, but I'm still attached to the idea of being a versatile drummer. So on the socials, I want to start maybe doing some like covers or so I got to get into that whole thing. But yeah, doing your
Yeah.
socials, booking your calendar, trying to develop as a musician. It's a full-time job. I remember Nate Morton telling me about that. Like, everybody thinks, I have some sort of a building with Nate Morton. It's 60 stories. This is where I run my industry. And it's like, man, we're just walking around with our iPhone and our laptop, just trying to keep it all together, and it's
Yeah.
crazy.
I could hear him
Yeah.
say that. And you make a good point too, that it could be, certainly I would never call it a curse, but living in Nashville, I think people might jump to that conclusion of putting you like in that box, like, oh, he plays with Jason Aldean, 25 years, almost 30
Yeah.
years, country drummer. But I mean, like you said, you went to North Texas State. You have a huge drumming vocabulary, and that's a great asset to have, and I think that's important for people to understand that, you, like Kenny, who went to
Studied four
Indiana.
mallets and timpani and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, he studied with my late father-in-law, Vic Firth. I mean, he was like going to be a legit player if he decided to go on. When I say legit, like, a real, like, classically trained
Can you imagine how different the world
percussionist.
would be if Kenny had taken the job with Lou Rawls or that European symphony? So it's almost like,
I
it's like
know.
there's
Uh,
there's like there's like a
yeah,
destiny, like maybe things are like, laid out for us down the line. We don't know it, but we have to roll up our sleeves and we do the work and we approach life with a open spirit and we're enthusiastic and we just keep showing up, and then somehow this path is revealed, which is ultimately our purpose.
yeah,
As much as I love and respect Spang-a-Lang and breaking up the beat and trying to do my best to sound like Elvin on a jazz chart, it's still not completely second nature, because I grew up listening to the Babies and the Faces and all the and there was just a strong
yeah, yeah.
backbeat. There's something about a backbeat that just ties the universe together, and it's this universal language. I mean, you could go to Peru or Paraguay or the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and you play in a backbeat, and people are going to relate to it somehow.
Absolutely. No, there's no doubt about it. And with, I have the absolute greatest love and respect for, you know, Elvin and the guys that came after him and before, Peter
Oh God,
Erskine and Tony
yeah,
Williams and God, yeah. I mean, but my home base is with you, and just, I mean, that's all I really ever knew as a drummer was a
yeah.
backbeat. And yeah, it's what
It's
moves
just the
me. But
best. It's the best.
yeah. Well, we're wow, things are moving quick. I wanted to just get to a couple
Oh
of
yeah,
quick
of course.
questions,
I
and
got
I
all
see
day,
that
man. It's when it comes to drums and like two guys that run and drink wine. Come on, man.
I know. I think we drank wine together that night in LA or Anaheim, wherever it was. I feel like we went, yeah, like we both knew, like, let's
Well,
have
that
some
makes
wine.
sense. There was
Um,
Carmine was there, Lib was there, Jack Bruno
yeah,
was there. Like everybody was there, man. It was
whole bunch of
yeah.
drummers. Yeah, yeah, it was good. It was a lot of fun. And today I actually ran for the first time. I'll just say I hadn't run in a few weeks. Just I had a cold for a while, and the weather's been kind of
Yeah.
winter and Boston-ish and all that rainy and all
Bostonish.
that. But Bostonish in January. But I got out today, and my wife walked, and I only ran, just under 4 miles, but I felt way better than I thought. I started like a little sluggish, and I'm like, well, I'm getting in a groove, and I'm older than you, but it was like it was kind of coming
But
back a little bit. So
dude, you look great. And I've looked at pictures
thank
going
you.
back. You've always been height weight proportionate. There was never a period where you're like, dude, put down the Triscuits. You know what I mean? And I've got some of those photos out there where I did nothing but practice, and my life was completely unbalanced, and I had two chins. You know.
I had those moments too. Believe me, when I lived in LA and ate Mexican food for lunch every
I
day, it
miss
was
the
like,
weather. I spent
yeah,
I kind of was living in LA and Nashville for like 6 years, and I was going back and forth.
yeah.
And there's just something when you land in that city and the sky is blue and you see the craning brontosaurus palm trees, and you could get an almond milk substitute or say hold the cheese and they don't look at you funny, and it's just a great place. It really is. And then sometimes it does get on you where it's just like, I am tired of sitting in this car, and
Yes, yeah, totally. I'll just say, yeah, you made a good point too about the 70 degrees. I remember, I'd go out there every 6 or so weeks for work, and I'd be out there in January or February. And, more often than not, I'd land at like 11 in the morning and it's like 70
it's
degrees.
unbelievable.
Yeah, in my rental car, and I'm like, man, this is not
Top
bad,
down. Bzzz.
Yeah, yeah, top down. Gonna go eat lunch somewhere in an outdoor sidewalk
Yeah, and they
cafe,
would, and you always and you ask like, "What do you serve?" And they're like, "California cuisine," like from Steve Martin, the L.A. Story movie.
yeah. Remember
Yeah.
that? Yeah, yeah. Oh, too funny. Well, I see that Ali Barget. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Ali Barget or Barget had asked, I think, the question that I asked you earlier, which is how you got into motivational speaking. And she asked, did you seek it out, or was it initially an idea that came via a different route?
Yeah.
Which I think we covered that. And then here's a question from Gilbert Garcia, who's asking, what's your personal practice schedule routine day by day in a
I love that.
week? How, yeah, how long are your practice sessions, and what are you presently working on
That's
right now?
amazing. Yeah, I know Gilbert. I've done clinics for Gilbert. He's down in South Texas. Great educator. He's got some great
Oh,
kids he
great.
works with.
Yeah, I know his name
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah,
He's there.
cool.
He's just carrying the torch for music education. I'm
Great.
embarrassed to say I have so many different things that I do. I wish I was still the guy that practiced 6 hours a day, but it's just every day. I might be in a different city, state. I'm in an airport. I'm on a bus. I'm in a recording studio. My favorite place to be is on stage with other musicians, or to be in a recording studio live with other musicians on the floor at the same time, which I'm happy to say happens every day in Nashville. We're still like Motown, like playing music on the floor at the same time. So nothing
Great.
rigorous, but at the very least, when I'm on the road, clinic during the day before sound check, dinner, sticks in my hands for an hour before I go on stage. Then I play 90 minutes. So there's a lot of drumming. And then if you're in Nashville on a particular day, like a single recording session is 3 hours, and sometimes you do two. So you get in, you get drum sounds at 9. You're playing the first song at 10. You might break for lunch between 1 and 2, and then there's another session. And my record in Nashville is recording. I did 21 songs in a day. So I did a triple session, 10 to 1, 2
Wow.
to 5, 6 to 9, and we did 7 songs every 3 hours. So basically, it's like hearing the demo and then the drummer getting the first take. And then when everybody is fixing or layering, like a bouzouki or a second acoustic guitar, you pick up your tambourine, shaker, maracas, and you try to color it a little bit. So 21 songs is my record.
Man.
But usually it's now 3 to 5. You do 3 to 5 songs every 3 hours, which is still fast.
That's fast. That's productive. Absolutely. And again, I think most people understand this, but that is truly the name of the game. And you said this at the beginning with, being able to read and write charts, that the days of you going into a studio with Jason's band and you guys having the budget to like write the songs in the studio. No. I mean, we laugh about that.
That's not like the good old days, man. Like a destination session. We're like, we're going to the Caribbean for a month. We're going to write the record in the studio and eat papaya all day long. Like session work now is you're lucky if you have cartage. So the box truck drops, Drum Paradise, Harry's there. One of his friends are there. The drums are set up. You get your coffee, you get your sounds, and then it is work. It is focus,
There's no messing around because it really truly is time is money. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's great. And I wanted to touch too, Rich, because I know this about you, but I don't know if other folks know that you have, you're a member of SAG, Screen Actors Guild, and you have some acting credits. Yeah. And how did that, did it come about because you're such a handsome man and somebody like in the old days ago, that's the face I see in my next.
They're like, well, he's too short to be a model, and he's too. But no, for me, like I always had like a career fantasy of like I loved Three's Company and like physical comedy and the whole idea of the format of a sitcom, 22 minutes and tell a story. There's trouble ensues, laughs, hilarity. Yeah. I love it all. Like I just love that thing. And so that was always like a secret fantasy of mine. But at 45, I got divorced and I wanted to just it's like, I'm not trapped behind the drums, but I'm behind this thing all the time. I'm like, what can I do creatively? Like, can I walk out there and that tightrope I started taking like improv classes and just like basics of acting class, cold reading, where you get a script and, there's an art to getting a script and being able to catch your line and still be in the thing and interacting with the other person. So I went down the rabbit hole, living part-time in Los Angeles and had the agents and all the auditions. So somehow in the cracks on Monday, Tuesdays, and Wednesdays, I was able to take the classes, get my butt into 2 horror films that were on Netflix, and then I was on a TV show in one episode, and I got to beat the heck out of Christopher Maloney from Law and Order. And just to experience all the things that a working thespian has to, don't go to craft service all day, you're going to be fat, and just, stay, turn your cell phone off, be in it, there's so many commonalities in the other arts, whether it's, being a dancer or a poet or a screenwriter or a director or an actor. It's like we have this creative outlet. We have this gift from God that we've taken the time to mold and to cultivate. And I was just like, I just want to do this thing. And, as an actor, I have not worked in a while because of the pesky pandemic. But in the process, I've realized that it is the cherry on my creative pie. And I'll probably do a lot more hosting. Like I have a hosting agent and they're like, hey, they want a drummer in a Doritos commercial, and like, shoot, when does it shoot? Oh, on the 14th and 15th. Damn, I'm in the studio. I got a session, so it's so rare when it all lines up that you can nail the audition. They love you. You're available for the shoot dates. It's a real tough business, but I'm glad I did it. Everything happens for a reason. The acting helps my speaking. The speaking helps the acting. That all helps the drumming. It all cross-pollinates. It's fun,
And I would think your drumming helps your timing, your comedic timing, and your acting timing too. I mean, just in terms of like, I feel like they're all, like you say, interconnected in that way. And I'd have to think too, what little I know about that part of the business is that there are a lot of last minute things that happen that, like you say, you have, you kind of have your quote day job as being a professional drummer, a known, pro drummer. So if it works out that you get a call, hey, Rich, we gotta, want you to come down to read for something tomorrow. And you're like, yeah, I can do it. But probably most times you're like, oh man, I'm booked.
It is the case. And, so a lot of my work I see in the future coming from probably, you meet interesting people in these cities that are at the highest levels. They're screenwriters, they're producers, and they like, man, you are this guy. You don't even really have to read for it, dude. You're the guy. So I have this cool little indie film and, we need you to be like doorman number 2, or, you know, the next door neighbor, or like, yeah, man, let's bring it on. So I don't know where that's going. I just know that I'm still very interested in it, you know?
Great, man. No, I can totally see the fit. Did you feel comfortable, like in terms of having to memorize lines? Did your built like your drum education help with being able to sort of like work that part of your brain to, because to me that would be the hardest thing to me, would be to remember all those
Yeah, there's
lines.
little
You know,
tracks, little hit, you know, little hacks that these actors do to kind of like, they might have photographic memory, or they grab certain things and they can string together and thread it in their mind. You know, a lot of these dudes are like people that have been, you know, acting since they're 8 years old, just like I've been playing drums since I was 8 years old. So,
yeah,
but you know, look at John Stamos. Like, I mean, great actor, great drummer. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
and
yeah.
so you know, there's a lot of negative Nellies out there. Once I was trying to like open that door to my soul and like start to learn that new craft, there was a lot of people that are like, aren't you satisfied? You got a great thing going. You got to go do this thing. I'm like, man, I'm being pulled towards it. I can't explain it. I know that I just have to do it. And this part of my business model. My business model is to invest in myself. And that's why I'm a member of SAG and AFM and the Progressive Art Society. And you get to be around birds of feather, people that have like similar philosophies and goals and aspirations. And so when you surround yourself with these kind of people, it's a great, so always investing in yourself. And like, so, you know, I have a product called Drumming in the Modern World, drumminginthemodernworld.com. And it's like 120 high definition videos, my little take on rudiments applied to the drums, soloing in some styles, how to play certain grooves, how to set up a cue, just stuff that a lot of people don't talk about. And it's like $99, and people will be like, that's too much money. I was like, $99, man. I'll spend that before breakfast investing in myself. You know, you got to have a
Yeah,
website.
yeah.
It's got to be state of the art. It constantly needs to be updated. You know, do you think I want to buy this overpriced t-shirt? No, but I got to look good. That's half the battle, is because people are
Yeah.
making a judgment of you as soon as they see you, you know? So there's all these little things that can make the difference in the industry. I think it's an expectation for you to be a great drummer and to be a great hang and a nice person. And there's that other stuff, that stuff that no one talks about, you know, showing up early is to be on time, be the first one there, the last
Yes.
one to leave, have a firm handshake, take direction from people. The gear's got to be in great shape. Just that stuff that people don't talk about, that it really makes all the difference.
Amen. Yeah, absolutely. No, we could do a whole show on that, you know, just all those things you just said. And before I forget, I want to congratulate you too, Rich, on being nominated for Country Drummer of the Year with
Oh,
Drumeo.
cool. Thank you.
That's awesome. And is the ballot still open for
No, it
that?
was like
That's
it's a little short window from December 20 to 25. And
Oh, that was it.
yeah,
Okay.
you
All
know,
right.
it's funny. Because when you start mixing like competition, like a sports like mentality with music, it doesn't always really mix. Half the battle is just being nominated and being in this, being where your peers are like, oh man, you did great work this year. It was another good year for you. Let's, you know, the folks at Drumeo, to be in that category with those other world-class musicians. Wow, this is amazing. But also, if you're going to be nominated, it's always great to win.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so
Absolutely.
I don't know.
No, I think, you know, you know, people often, that's like the sort of cliche of like, it's just good to be nominated. But I agree with that, you know, being mentioned in the same company
The
as
Jim
like
Rileys and
some
the
real,
Lonnie Wilsons, and
yeah,
yeah, my God.
heavy guys. And that's pretty good to just be in that same, you know, category, that same sentence.
And
So
that's nice. Well, thank you.
congratulations
And
on
the
that.
Drumeo guys are, you know, that is just such a cool facility. Just that commitment to education, you know, that and Drum Channel and Mike John. There's so many just great places to get the information nowadays. We didn't,
Yeah.
for us back in the day, we were just dropping needles going, what's Greg Bissonette doing on Eat 'em and Smile? You know,
Exactly.
how can I slow this? We didn't have a way to slow it down. It was, you know,
No, you had to lift the needle up and play it again and see if you could catch it the second time or the third or the. I know,
yeah.
I know. We talk about that. It's a you know, and it's great that drummers coming up today have all these tools, like you say, all these resources to, you know, and that's why we see kids, you know, 5 years old playing these crazy double bass drum
And twirling
patterns
their
and
sticks, and then guys that are just like killing it at such a young age because
yeah, I know.
the exposure is so high. There's really no excuse nowadays for not being a great drummer, and all the music is practically Pro Tool to death. So all the kids are playing with perfect time, and so I'm noticing that as a teacher, there's a generation or two of kids that have really amazing time, and they could pick out right away. Oh my God, that song just picked up 15 beats over the course of 3.5 minutes. Which we know those songs that are out there, but they're so classic, But those
Yeah,
kids, their
yeah.
ears are so in tune to like, this is getting faster, you know.
That wasn't me as a kid. No, but I know what you mean. My granddaughter, I'll just give a little plug to my 7-year-old granddaughter
Ah,
who sits and my son will put like a record on or something, a recording, and she'll play to it on either like an acoustic kit or an electronic set. And he'll sometimes have like a little cross stick or like a click sound in the background. And she just nails it. She just nails it on the backbeat.
yeah.
And then when it's not on, I'll listen. I'll go, my God, her time is
Ah,
ridiculous. Like she's just, yeah. And I think you're right. I think it's this, as a young person, it becomes kind of innate to be able to develop that internal clock that I know when as a kid I didn't work on that. I wanted to play, like you said, to all the records,
yeah.
the Who and the Stones and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, and the time sometimes shifted, and I just I just wanted to play along
But they
with it.
did it together as a band, which
That's
is
right. Yeah.
so great. And I hope the band mentality doesn't disappear from music because, a lot of labels, they just don't want to deal with the 6 personalities. They want to have one person to kind of boss around a little bit. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
the mentality, the band one for all for one thing is disappearing a little bit from music, but I don't want to sound like the get off my lawn guy. I'm very happy to
Yeah.
be in the business.
Yeah. Well, Rich, man, it's been a pleasure to have you today. I thank you so much for taking time to
Oh
do
man, the
this.
pleasure is mine, and you're the coolest looking grandfather I've ever seen in my life, man.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And I want to give a plug to your show too, the Rich Redmond Show. And where can people catch that? Can they find it? Is it a podcast that we can
Yeah, the
find
Rich Redmond
on
Show. We've got
Apple Podcast? Yeah,
153 episodes, and I'm going to really double down on it this year. I was really good at like
great.
doing 2 episodes a week, during the COVID. But then I started working on my book, and I was like, I don't think I could do a podcast and a book and tour. But now we're
No,
gonna get back into it, and just like you, just interviewing our friends, the Mark Schulmans and the Kenny Aronoffs and the Jason Sutters and the Lonnie Wilsons and the Eddie Bearses, and these are folks that are they're world class individuals, but at the same time they pay taxes and they poop and they put their pants on one leg at a time. And so it's really good for people to hear these stories and to be inspired by people go like, oh my God, maybe I can do this too. But yeah, it's everywhere. It's on Apple, Google Play. We even film it. We put it on YouTube. So
great,
yeah, we're excited about it, man.
great. Well, check it out, everybody, and I will too. And I've watched a few
We're
of
gonna
them
get you on.
during the
We're gonna
pandemic.
get you on.
Well, I'd love that. I'd be honored. But get all the good guys first, and then
Oh,
you can
stop.
squeeze me in somewhere after that. So. All right. Well, Rich, hang with me for 1 second. We'll end the live broadcast, but I want to thank you again. A big hand for Rich Redmond, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, a lot of great comments here too. You can check out afterward, Rich too.
Awesome.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.